Welcome to another episode of Nobody's Muses. This is Rachel.
Hi, it's Crystal.
We are glad to be back again, and we are here to talk about track 7 of the Amazon Prime original series Daisy Jones and the Six. And don't forget, you can follow us on YouTube. You can find our podcast streaming wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. You can also check us out on Instagram at Nobody's Muses and our email, nobodysmuses@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. So don't forget to subscribe and like and write a review. We would love all of those things. But if you're just going to listen, we love the listener too. You don't have to write reviews.
We love listeners.
All right. So let's jump into it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So this is track 7, She's Gone. I'm thinking the Daryl Hall and John Oates song, which I do love. And writing credit goes to Susan Coyne, who is kind of part of the Mozart in the Jungle writing crew. And directed by Will Graham, who's directed many of the episodes so far. So that's all we got there.
All right, so we open with, there's no cold open on this one. We just get right into it. And it goes back 2 years. Mm-hmm. It goes back to 1975, which I thought was kind of weird. Or it was, I don't know, I was surprised that the show gave it 2 years to record Aurora, right? Am I following the timeline right?
I was really surprised that, okay, so the last we see Simone is she says goodbye to her, and then Daisy's all sad that here I've got a #1 record and nobody to share it with, and then she goes to the party that night, she goes to jail. Karen has to get her from the party, get her from jail, then she goes to the party. So that's a 2-year time span?
I guess so.
I mean, it makes more sense in the sense of how long it actually takes to make an album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
But it felt much more sped up in those episodes to me than...
Yeah, it didn't seem like it took 2 years to put the album together. It felt like it went really fast.
Yeah.
It seemed like it timelined it over like a month or 6 weeks or so. But anyway, we have gone back 2 years, and we find Simone getting off of the bus. She is in New York City, and she is ready to start her life and reconnect with Bernie. So she initially goes to this club. The person that opens the door says, "We don't have any more room," and she has to throw out Bernie's name so that she can get into the door. She walks into this club, and it's gay, it's lesbian, it's transgender, it's drag queens, it's all the things of this seemingly underground kind of nightclub. I don't know that, there were gay clubs, well-known gay clubs in New York in the 70s, but this one kind of seemed maybe a little hidden.
Yeah.
But she gets in there and she finds Bernie, and she is, in the DJ booth with Bernie, talking to her and reconnecting with her. And then Bernie decides that she's going to play Simone's track, right?
Yep.
And so everybody goes crazy. This has been like a fan favorite. I guess Bernie's been playing it since she heard it, and has been playing it a lot for the people in the club, and they get it, they love it, and they start dancing. So Bernie plays Simone's remix. The crowd goes crazy, and she says to her, "Check it out, you've got fans." And I think Simone is truly just blown away by the fact that people are actually listening to her song. So we cut to Bernie and Simone, and
they're at their apartment.
Well, they're at their apartment. And so they, they're at Bernie's apartment, and you see them kind of start kissing. But I thought this was crazy. Like, Simone is so uncomfortable with all this that she goes and she closes the curtains. she just, even in private, she is not ready to, I don't know, not ready to accept this part of herself, not ready to acknowledge this part of herself. I don't know what it is. I can't speak from that experience.
Right.
But she goes so far as to close the window or close the curtains in this apartment that is up several flight or several stories in New York. It's just weird. It's weird. So, thoughts on Bernie?
Well, I just really love this character. It actually in the notes and in the comments on YouTube, I'll put a really nice article about this because I really liked the fact that I feel like Bernie is a kind of lesbian that isn't represented that much on TV. I feel like we really like a certain kind of lesbian on TV, and I think that Bernie is, is a different flavor that is actually, I feel like, pretty common. And
Right.
I liked the fact that usually so much sometimes in pop culture and TV, mainstream TV, if you do have a lesbian, well, she's a hot lesbian. And not that the woman who plays Bernie isn't not that Bernie isn't an incredibly attractive person, but she doesn't follow femme norms. She
Right.
wears very, manly, more manly type clothes, but
Yeah.
um, and I feel like I'm treading a little bit scary water, but I just think it's nice to see that the kind of lesbian that sometimes makes straight people uncomfortable being represented on TV. And
Well, and let's not forget, we also get a representation of lesbian that is typically white.
yeah,
We don't get a lot of persons of color
yeah,
in what I would consider a positive representation.
yeah,
But I think, yeah, Bernie is authentic. Bernie is comfortable in her skin and comfortable in her sexuality. And Simone is trying to catch up.
yeah.
But she seems to be fighting it in certain points along the way.
It's got to be hard also for Bernie, I think,
Well, yeah,
So,
because she is so comfortable and she is so who she is. And then to have this attraction to someone that is not there yet, you're ready to live your life out in
yeah,
the open, and you've got somebody that is not ready to be there yet. But again, if you have this true attraction and this true connection with a person, I guess you could be patient for that to come. And I think we see Bernie as an extremely patient person as we go through this. And she tries very, very hard to give Simone the time to come into herself and accept who she is and helps her along the way,
yeah,
reminding her, we'll see throughout this episode reminders that Bernie shares with Simone to try to get her to a more comfortable place. But we wake up the next morning and, they joke about someone says something about she doesn't usually, wake up next to people the
yeah.
next day. She's usually out. And Bernie says something about her. Yeah, you're usually out the door pretty quick. You're one of those that's out the door pretty quickly. And yeah, Simone accepts that and takes that in and acknowledges that's pretty much who she is. And then we flip back into the club, and Bernie is trying to convince a very reluctant Simone to get out there and actually sing her song. So I'm trying to figure out why, as someone who desires so much to be creative and performing, but she is so incredibly reluctant, and the face and the eye roll that she almost gives her as she asks her to go down and perform. I'm just trying to figure out like where is this reluctance coming from, because she's been working on this for a while and has wanted this for a while, but yet now that she has a chance to perform for people, it's not, it doesn't come easy to her.
Well, do you think one, it's because of the crowd? Do you think she's afraid to perform in front of a predominantly gay lesbian crowd? Is that why?
I don't know.
Or is it because she is maybe isn't how she pictured it? It's not at the Troubadour
Right.
with a mic and a band. It's with just backing music, basically singing over her own record. you know.
I almost, and again, I don't want to make any assumptions, but it's almost to me as though she's just not ready to let her music be embraced by that community because she herself is not ready to be in that community fully. And so maybe she's afraid, if my music is out and connected to this community, then people are going to connect me to this community. And I'm not really sure that I'm ready to be connected to this community yet. I don't know. But she was super, the eye roll and just like, it was almost like a petulant child that you're just like, go unload the dishwasher. And it was like, oh,
Well, do
I've
you
seen
think
that
it's
face a
also
thousand
that
times.
she's like, maybe she protests too much? Like, oh, I don't really want to sing. Is it that?
Who knows? Who
Maybe?
knows? But she gets out there and performs, and you see her start to open up as the crowd is just going wild and, loving this for her and loving this song and really getting into it. And so she does relax, and you see her embrace the moment and really, perform for the crowd. And then this segment, we kind of have some voiceover from Simone, which comes from the future. So it's 1997 Simone talking to the interviewer, but it's over 1975 content or 1975 footage. And so she's speaking to the interviewer, and she says, she just gets out there and she sings the song over and over again and performs it again every night, multiple times. And there's a point in which she, I think, returns to the booth and is, Bernie comes in for a kiss, and she's just like, no, stop it.
Right.
And I was just like, again, you're in this place where you are going to get nothing but acceptance and love, and yet you still are not ready to make that leap and be that public and open about it. So again, I don't want to make any assumptions because
No.
I have not traveled that path. So I will never, I don't want to imply that I know exactly what's going on. But it's just some things that you see from the outside of, again, just having this opportunity to live her most genuine and truthful self and just still being very, very scared to do that. And I think we can all understand fear and being scared of doing stuff. And it's easy for us on the outside to say, oh, go for it. You're going to be okay. But
Well, and also, the thing that being gay in this world, especially even more then, it's still now though, is that is something that becomes the thing that you are, like, in a way. You know, you're the gay musician. Like, you're not Simone.
right.
Like, I think that's, especially back then, it's even harder. And if you look at some of the out artists of that time, they didn't fare very well. Most of them did stay closeted because of that.
Right. Right. There weren't a whole lot. There weren't a whole lot that were out.
Yeah.
Or there was just, an implication that they were, but never a confirmation that they were out.
Right.
Because again, it was dangerous times.
Yeah.
It's surprising how little we've progressed over the last, 40 years, 50 years. But yeah. So we cut to, they're back at the apartment. And Simone says, I would just rather keep this low key. And so Bernie says, there's always somewhere we have to be careful. But in the club with our people, if we can't dance there, then where can we dance? I just don't want to keep hiding something that feels this good.
Yeah. That's
So there's
beautiful.
Simone just, again, being really patient, but trying to show her that she can be out. And especially, as I said, especially in front of this group of people with this community here, she is more than, there's more of an opportunity for her to be her authentic self, if she even knows what her authentic self is yet. And maybe
Right.
that's it. Maybe she hasn't decided what her authentic self is yet. So,
And then we cut to, and then we kind of get into like a montage, a very big like montage of stuff. And it's 1997, Simone saying she was right. I was hiding and I wasn't ready to stop. Um, and then we see in 1976 Simone and Bernie in the recording studio, and Simone says, I put everything I was feeling into the music, and once I did, that song just worked. And the song they're doing is Last Night Together.
Mm-hmm.
And Simone says, I mean, that's how it was back then. We had to do everything ourselves. We put it out on a tiny label and hand delivered it to every DJ we knew. And, she talks about, suddenly we're doing 4 songs a night and we're doing roller discos. And they're also doing places, they're doing nicer clubs. They end up doing places where there's straight people. But then every night they would come back to their club and perform. And, and she says, and she says, I might have been comfortable enough yet to dance with her, but making music together, making people dance was the next best thing. So, I think that is just, and the song itself is a really nice thing about you can read it one way as just as a dance party song, but it's actually a song about, it says people say I'm free, but they don't know me. I like it wild. You keep it tight. This is about Bernie and Simone in a lot of ways, the
Mm-hmm.
lyrics to this song.
Well, and then there's
And
one line about our friend, being deviants and things like that,
yeah,
which, that mentality was definitely there. So yeah, what did you think about? So we got 2 songs from Simone during this. We got "Your Love Ain't Enough"
yeah.
in kind of the first part of it, and then we got the second song, which
I,
was, wait a second, did I get this right? Yeah,
yeah, you're right. And then we
yeah.
got Last Night Together.
So what did you think about her songs?
I thought they were good. I mean, they sound kind of like disco. They sound of the moment.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, yeah, I could hear, I could hear Donna Summers in
yeah.
there. I could hear, you know, Anita
Especially
Wood in it.
the
Yeah,
early Donna Summer, like I Feel Love, like the stuff that got her start in the club
yeah.
scene.
Hey,
And
did you see that there's going to be like a documentary on
I
Donna
know,
Summers coming
I
on
think it's,
HBO?
yeah, I'm definitely watching that.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely will be watching that.
I mean,
Eh,
all of the stuff with Marauder that she did, I thought they did a good job of kind of drawing on those ideas for those songs. And
Well, then I thought of like Amy Stewart, yeah, who sang "Knock on Wood,"
yeah, yeah.
and so
Oh,
yeah, so I mean, there was definitely some connection that you could pull from that '70s era, early '70s era disco, black females. So I think they did a good job of creating that same vibe for her, connecting, with her outfits that, gave us, recognition of some very influential people of that time. So they did a good job of finding a way to make sure she was connected into that space at that point in time in music.
and also like her clothes, like there's one, and she's straight up looks like Shaka Khan and Rufus. Like she's got this little kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird, like native looking
Yeah, it kind
thing
of looks
with
like leather and it's got
yeah,
feathers all over it and stuff
yeah.
like
I
that.
mean, it's
Yeah.
very Shaka Khan and Rufus.
And
And
then there
then
was the
also,
one they started this the shot was from up above and it was like this
hmm
sequin outfit and that gave me like very Donna Summer
yeah,
looking, with like the leotard and
hmm
kind of something over that, but you could still very much tell it was a leotard. So, yeah, they did a really good job. But I think the songs were good.
yeah.
And a good representation of what she was trying to evolve into at that point in time.
Well, and just the idea of, especially at that time, and I mean, the thing that, hurt disco in the long run was because of who it was for in the first place, is that it was a it was a music genre for that, was R&B based, so a lot of black people, and it was very much a part of, the gay and lesbian culture, especially gay culture, and then it became very popular, and but then there was the backlash, and that's who they could say, well, we don't like it because of who makes it, you know.
Yeah. We went from disco to hair metal.
Well, I just think it's hilarious because they're like, "Oh, we hate disco," and then like 2 years later, you just listen to all of the Duran Duran or any of that, any of that music from that time, and that's disco.
Yeah.
It's just, guess what? You know what the big difference is? The people who are playing the music in front of you are white.
Right.
But Nile
Right.
Rodgers is in the background making all that good music just like he did when he was in front of Chic. So
Speaking of Niles Rogers, you never realize how much he touched in music.
yeah,
So I saw him open for Duran Duran back in the fall. And just, he did these montages. And it is just mind blowing how much music that man has created for
yeah.
so many people over so many decades. It's mind boggling. And every one of them are bangers. Every one of them are songs that you all love and sing all the time.
Well, and I would say one thing that I did think of that I didn't mention when we were talking about the songs is, one of the most important songs of that time for disco is "I'm Coming Out" by
Diana
not Donna,
Ross.
Diana Ross, and we know what that means. And they
Right?
knew what it meant back then. They wrote those songs for her community. Like they specifically, he and his collaborator, I can't remember his name because, can't remember people's names anymore. But they worked with her specifically. They wrote that song because she wrote that for her fans, who she knew a lot of her fans were gay men. She
Right.
wrote that for them,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, so the show is called Daisy Jones and the Six, so we got to get something in there that's Daisy Jones, and so we do. We're gonna kind of transition. So, Bernie and Simone are hanging around her apartment, and the phone rings, and Bernie answers it, and it's Teddy, and he asks, to speak to Simone, and then and he's nice. I mean, he's asking her how she's doing and things like that. And he's like, "Who's that answered the phone?" And Simone says, "Oh, it's just my roommate." I had two women that lived near my household that my dad and our family talked to all the time because they showed horses, and my family showed horses too, and they were roommates.
Yeah.
It's like, duh. But yeah, so they were roommates. And, he's like, "Hey, have you checked on, or have you heard from Daisy or anything like that?" And, Simone's not concerned, She's like, "No, but, she'll be back in time for for the record release." Or no, he
No,
said
she
that she
missed
missed
the
the record
record
release.
release.
So she'll be back in time for the tour. So, Simone wasn't concerned about it. This was very Daisy to just, up and disappear and not be in contact with anybody. And it's not like it is now where you can just text friends all the time and stuff like that. You'd have to make an effort to make a long distance phone call and track somebody down. And she wasn't very concerned about it. So, for her, 1997, someone says, "Daisy and I had kept in touch, but I wasn't worried." And honestly, she had her own thing going on. So, she wasn't having to take care of Daisy. So she wasn't having to worry about Daisy because she was really in her own element and was doing her thing. But yeah, so Daisy's disappeared, but nobody seems overly concerned about it. Or at least Simone doesn't seem overly concerned about it. So then we cut to, obviously, Simone has performed somewhere and she's coming out looking very glamorous in like this long fur-esque coat. And, Bernie's got a surprise for her, and she's trying to shuffle her into a limousine, and come to find out that there's some people that want to basically produce Simone's music and make records. And so she, of course, is absolutely thrilled. Squeals about it. And then there was kind of cozies in on Bernie, but the limo driver gets in the car and makes eye contact with her in the rearview mirror. And so, of course, she backs off. And, just talking about like what all could happen, and, super excited, but still guarded and not wanting to connect physically with Bernie in that back seat. And then all of a sudden, I love the era of telegraphs. I don't understand telegrams.
I
I
would love
don't
to have
understand
one.
the era because by the time, you and I were in existence, we had, I mean, yeah, some areas of the country probably still had party lines, but for the most part, people had phones in their homes. So the
Well,
whole concept of sending a telegraph just cracks me up.
I mean,
It's
I
so,
just always love the idea of the telegraph of stop. Da, 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 stop. Like, even the way you say a telegraph, I just think it's so cool. I would love to get a telegram. That would be so cool.
can't
But
you
I
still
just want
send
to
a
know, how did
telegram?
this person know? Like, it
Because
was almost
people,
like they were serving her papers, and like,
yeah,
knock
that
on
she
the
had,
window and here's a telegram. It's so weird to me.
I'm going to bet it was some, but like, and then like, where do you send the, it's like,
I mean,
she
was that
sends,
at her club that they always send? Like, how did
yeah, is
they
that,
know? It was so
because I'm
weird.
betting that that person worked for the club and she
Okay.
came out and to catch Simone. But it's like, how did Western Union know that the the
I know.
telegram need to go there? I don't know. It's just a confusing concept. I don't
How do they
understand it.
work? How it's like magnets. It's the same thing. How do they work? I don't understand how telegrams work.
Yeah, because if something goes over, I mean, why couldn't you just pick instead of having to do the whole Morse code thing? Why couldn't you just pick up the phone at one telegram office and call another telegram office and say, "Hey, write this down and give it to this person"? I don't know.
I don't know.
But anyway, she gets this telegram, and understandably, she opens it up, and it just simply says, "I need you, Daisy," is what the text that we see. Well, I'm sorry. If you got a telegram that says, "I need you," I would be concerned as well. If I got a telegram for you, or if I got a text from you that said, "I need you," I would get worried
Yeah.
that something had happened. So they head back to their apartment, and Simone is packing up her bag. And, it's like, I think it kind of feels like Bernie's trying to talk her out of it. But then all of a sudden she's like, nope, you know what? She starts packing her bag and she says, you sure, you sure as hell ain't going to Greece by yourself. So, here's this again. Bernie's in.
Yes.
Bernie's all into this relationship. Simone is still not there.
Yeah.
But Bernie is in this relationship, and that's the thing, is like she is committed to this relationship. So if something is important to Simone, it is important to Bernie, because that's how much she values their relationship. And
Well,
so, yeah,
and I mean, Simone says, she's trying to explain to Bernie why. She's like, she doesn't have anybody else. She should be in jail. I don't know. This is. And I think sometimes we have relationships with people where we like being the one who has our shit together. And I think there's a little bit of that with Simone and her feelings with Daisy. She likes kind of to be the one, the big sister who has the shit together.
right.
And I think so, as much as I do think she really cares about Daisy and is legit worried, I think there's also a lot of, well, if I don't help her, who's going to help
Yeah.
her kind
If
of
I'm not going
thing.
to save her, then nobody's going
And
to save her because she has
yeah,
nobody.
yeah. But it is about, I think, it is so sweet. And Bernie is fully committed to this, even though Simone won't even kiss her in public. You know. So then we cut to beautiful shots of them on a boat in Greece, and we have the big key that says Hydra.
And I did some research, and they did actually shoot in Greece.
Wow.
So this was all legitimate. They went over there and
Life
they
is
shot.
rough.
And I was like,
Life is rough.
life is rough for the cast of Daisy Jones and the Six.
So I think it's really funny because I get nervous. I'm not well traveled. A foreign traveler, just going to Mexico made me nervous. So, like, I can't imagine in the 70s without the help of Google and the internet to do research to even try to get to Greece, and then like have to take a horse to find this place and all of these things. I got very caught up into the logistics of how this worked.
Well, and this article that I found talked about this place being, there's no cars there. Like,
Yeah.
so imagine trying to get equipment, like filming.
Oh,
Imagine
that
trying to
part
get
too.
equipment there and lug it around town and
But
get
just
it up all
as
those small little walkways and those staircases of those houses built into the side of, this island. And so, yeah, but it was so beautiful. Greece is one of those places that I would love to visit. But yeah, they're walking. And, here you have, two city girls,
Right.
Bernie, who's grown up in New York, and they're riding
I
horses
know it looks so
through,
funny.
they're like looking for a taxi. Can we get a taxi? A taxi? And the lady points over and there's two horses. So they just hop on and start finding, and they're trying again. We don't have Google. We don't even have a
No,
map scope. We're just like trying to figure out which house could it be? Which
I
house could it be?
know. That
I think it could be
stresses me
this one.
out thinking about that. So then somehow they find it. Daisy runs up and she looks fine. She looks high, but she looks fine. And she's like, "Oh my God, you came." And like this whole time, Simone is looking worried. And Simone's like, "Okay, what do you need? I've got bail money." And she's like, "I'm not in trouble. I'm getting married." And I got to tell you, if especially if I'm Bernie, I'm pissed.
Yeah,
Like
because
I
you've just
have,
been a
and
chunk
if
of
I'm
change to go.
Simone, I am pissed. I have been worried sick about you. You send me a telegram that says, "I need you,"
And then this
and
is what it
and
is.
this is what I see.
No.
I
Well,
mean,
I do want to go back that scene where when they started and they were coming in the water. That little song that they played, that choo choo song. I
uh,
loved that song.
yeah,
I loved that song. I was like, because I,
yeah,
I mean, I love all of those like French speaking, like
yeah,
poppy sounding songs that I
yeah,
don't understand a word of, but I
yeah,
just love them. They make me
yeah.
happy.
My husband, like, he has a whole like mix of those that we listen to.
Oh, I need that playlist
Yeah.
because yeah,
So,
those make me happy. But
so
yeah,
we're
I'm not
just
in trouble. I'm getting married.
I just like, oh,
Fucking hell.
I feel like you and I had a friend like that, and
I hadn't thought of that, but you're absolutely right.
I'm just like, oh God,
And therefore, I don't have that.
we're not
Therefore,
friends
I
with them
got rid of that
anymore.
friendship really, really quick because she was
But
stressing me out.
yes. So then she's, I'm not getting married, and then long, tall drink of water. Nikki comes in,
He's very attractive.
very handsome. In the book, he's Italian. In the show, he's Irish. But
We should
good.
also say in the book, they're not in Greece.
No,
In the book, she went to Thailand.
and then
She went to Phuket.
but then she, okay, but
Yeah,
then
initially
but
she went to Thailand.
and she goes to find her in Thailand, but then has to find her in Italy, right?
Yeah.
It's really a mess. I mean, Simone gets screwed over even worse in the book.
But yeah, so
And she's
we meet Nikki. He's
and
very handsome,
yeah,
very attractive. Looks nothing like, you know,
no,
nothing
tall,
similar to Billy.
yeah, tall,
Short hair,
clean,
just very aristocratic is the word that I would use.
and I think I can do a pretty good Daisy now. He's just not like anyone I've ever met. He lives in the moment. He's free, and she says told him I couldn't marry him without my maid of honor. And then Bernie says, "Well, maybe next time use a telephone." Ding, 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 ding.
Pick up a
And
call, pick up a phone.
then Simone asks Nikki about the Six, and Daisy hasn't told him anything about her music or anything. And and like to me that if you're Simone and you know how important music is to her, that's a huge problem.
Yes. But she in this place in Hydra, she is allowed to forget all that happened in LA.
Yeah,
The heartbreak, the tension, all of that falling for Billy, him being manipulative, all those things. She has escaped that and hasn't had to think of that. But she brought her reality into
yeah,
it when she brought Simone in.
right.
So you can sit there in your little perfect bubble in Hydra with your beautiful aristocratic Irishman, but you just took a piece of your reality and brought it to you. So you can't be surprised when reality slaps you in the face.
Well, and also she okay, though all of that was painful, and the things that she did that time with Billy, there was a lot of pain, but it was also, as she said, one of the greatest times of her life.
Hmm.
So she's not only cutting herself from off from the painful part, but she's cutting herself off from the joy,
Right.
you
But
know?
Nikki has no idea. He thought she was a poet.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that she was a rock star. Can we just talk about him for a minute?
Yeah.
He is annoying.
Oh, well, I feel like, yeah, like when we get to him talking about, oh, I'm a student of life, and
Yeah.
and I own, like, he's just, he's just awful in a lot of ways.
He is, I mean, they created this extremely stereotypical trust fund privilege man child. When oh, I'm a student of life. I'm working on a dissertation. God only knows how long he been working on that dissertation. He'd
Yeah.
been
No,
working
a
on that dissertation
dissertation
for
for
10
what
years.
school? Where is he going to school? Like,
Yeah.
what does that even mean?
I have, but yeah, so we have this extremely privileged individual who is basically a trust fund baby, who just kind of flits around and, makes life easy, for Daisy to forget all that she has
Yeah.
going on back in her reality in California.
So then, where are we?
So Simone and Bernie are in the bed in the morning,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and Simone gets up and she goes out and she finds Daisy playing on this Greek guitar, a bouzouki, I think, or bazooka, something like that. Is what I looked it up because I thought it was a lyre at first, but a lyre looks more like a harp. And she asks her what happened to your guitar, and she's like, "Oh, all my stash was in the case, so I just had to leave it behind." And so, um, she's talking to her and she mentions something about, just kind of the reality of life and how, she has something that she's going to she has to go back. There's something that she's committed to do, and I just can't see, picture Billy riding on or
Nikki.
Nikki riding on a tour bus for 7 months, and Daisy tries to tell her she's not going back. What? You're
Yeah.
not going to go back? And she's like, "Have you seen this? Have you seen this?" And she hands her the copy of the Rolling Stone magazine with Daisy Jones and the Six on the cover. And she just immediately says, "Yes, I saw it and I read it." So why would I go back when I have everything that I want right here? She doesn't have her music there.
Hmm.
She has this escape, this place to escape,
Hmm.
but she doesn't have reality there. So why would I go back when I have everything I want here? And someone's just like, "That is you on this cover of Rolling Stone." And Daisy's just like, "No, it's not me." Or, "No, it's not." And some of these things that Daisy says throughout this episode, I would really embrace and believe were authentic things if she were actually sober. Like
Yeah.
for her to say that, for her to look at that picture of herself and recognize that that's not the person that she is in that moment.
Hmm.
If she were sober and looking back and saying that, I would, it would connect with me and I would realize it or I would accept it. But she's not sober and she's just trying to escape.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do kind of an interesting job in this episode. I really was taking note of it. They don't show her just, they show her, um, they slowly show her drug use more obvious. Like at first, it doesn't seem that it just seems like she's just high. And as we move through the episode, we see her and Nikki taking more and more drugs together. So, at first you could be, if you were Simone or if you're Bernie, going, well, she doesn't seem that fucked up to me,
Right.
but
But we
you
know
know
that that's not true.
So, Daisy walks away with the magazine because she doesn't want Simone, telling her what to do. And she looks at the magazine, and you can tell, like, she looks at the cover, and there's a moment where she's happy. Just like when we saw her with her looking at Billboard and seeing her excited whenever Honeycomb was number one. But then, she looks at the article, and you see the title is Love, Lust, and Hatred, the complex relationship at the heart of America's next great band. And there's pictures of the band recording and a shot of her arguing with Billy, and quotes like, "We already had that sound. Daisy was more like icing on the cake." And a quote from Billy saying, "Talent like Daisy is wasted on someone like Daisy, but would Daisy's talent be present in a less difficult person?" Um, you see things like addiction, head case, selfish, and she puts the article away.
I don't think
And
she'd read it before. I don't think she'd actually read it yet. She told
you,
Simone that she had seen it and she had read it.
I
But
don't.
we see the look of excitement when she looks at the cover, and then just the look on her face as she's reading these words. I don't think she'd actually read it.
Well, she did. She had, because he
And
sent
she
it
got
to
that
her.
paper copy of it, right?
Right, so she hadn't seen the pictures and stuff, but she'd seen that.
But to see it in the magazine,
Yeah, no, she hadn't seen it in the
yeah,
magazine.
to
No,
see it in the magazine,
no,
that
and
to
that.
me, just like now everybody knows. When it was delivered,
Yes.
hand delivered to me, it was just an article that he had written and it was in an envelope and nobody knew about it yet.
Yeah,
And so this disappearance of hers, maybe it didn't come to fruition, maybe something happened, but now it's physically in this copy of the Rolling Stone. And there's no, I mean, everybody knows now. Everybody knows what Daisy Jones is really like.
yeah.
So,
Well, and I'm sure it is a little bit of denial, like maybe they won't print it like that. And
yeah.
then to see your picture and be like, wow, that would be.
Selfish,
I,
addict.
Also, I do love that picture of her on the cover. That's such a great picture of the band.
That is a great picture. So, like you said, she put it away.
She hides it away.
Yep. And then she tells Nikki that she's really excited to marry him. Or she can't wait to marry him.
Yep.
So then we have like this beautiful day on the island in Greece. I'm betting that all days on an island in Greece are pretty stellar. But yeah, this
If
beautiful
you're
day.
rich,
Yeah, this beautiful day on the island, and they're going to a friend's house, and there's all these people, and it's just like they're the complete caricatures of like what you would think would be at a party. You have, artists, and you have poets, and but all of them, they all seem like they're all just trust fund babies.
oh yeah.
They're just all trust fund babies.
It's really easy to be a poet who doesn't publish when you're already rich.
When you don't have bills to pay.
Right.
So it's this escapism from reality for Daisy, that, she's surrounding herself with all of these people who are these creative and, earthy and just cosmic type of individuals, but yet they're all really probably just at the heart of it trust fund babies who couldn't get jobs, couldn't keep jobs, couldn't stay in school, and now they're
Because
just
they
going to
don't
be
have
poets and
to.
artisans.
Because they don't have to. And
Right.
like, especially if you're part of that culture, like, to actually try and work is like, you're not supposed to do that. How
Right.
gauche.
Well, and you would, that would be one of those, you know, the trust fund baby that, our modern day trust fund babies that are going out and do charity events. But, these people probably didn't want to do, charity and work because they just thought that
Yeah.
fed into the system.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's like the whole, I don't know, there's all these articles about, like, because I don't watch Succession, but there was like where they were making fun of a woman at a party on the Succession characters because she was carrying a Burberry purse. And the whole point of them being so rich is they have hats that don't have labels, but it's a $6,000 hat, you know, because like they're so rich you don't even need a label. And these people are old money. It's easy for them to be the guy who's like, oh, I stopped publishing, I write for myself.
Yeah.
And then
But then we do have this conversation about, you know, he's, they're talking about this. These friends are just talking about all these things that they do, and who they are, and Simone's in this party as they're going around and walking around and talking to these people, and you know she hears them talking, and there's at one point where this poet that we keep referring to, she talks to him and is introduced to him, and he asks her what she writes about, and he says, anything. I think he says anything I want, and then Simone says something about no. She mainly writes about loneliness.
no, no, Daisy. He asks her what she writes about, and Daisy says,
Anything I
"Anything I
want.
want." And Simone says, "Well, she mostly writes about loneliness." And
Yeah. So again, there's
Daisy
Simone
gives
bringing
her
her
a
back
bit
to
of a
reality.
look.
Simone's bringing her back to reality. But yeah, and then he said, I write about love and madness. And yeah, then he stopped publishing because, I'm not going to be beholden to the man and making money. And so, yeah. So, and then Simone gets into this whole conversation about, well, isn't that the whole point of being creative? Is that we share our creativity with others, that we, share that gift with people around us. And he was like, you know, well, if, she asked him, how do people know about your work? And he's like, oh, you can just come by my house. The door's unlocked.
Yeah.
Dude.
Well, I do think that there is an interesting debate there, though, because just like we're making this thing, you
Sure.
know, are we doing it to be heard and to be seen, or is it in the joy in the making? Because I do feel like a lot of times we get so caught up in the things we make, especially in this world, like, oh, if you're good at something, well, you should make that so you can sell it. Or so I do see there's a little bit of a point to what he's saying,
I, yeah.
but I also am like
But
it's
he's
very
just,
easy for him to say those
yeah.
things. And that is not who Simone is, and that absolutely isn't who Daisy is, and that, Daisy's not going to just write poems. She worked her ass off for 2 years writing great music.
Right.
So,
And
but I
she
do,
wants to perform.
yes,
She doesn't want to tell these people she wants to perform, but she wants to perform. But like you said, there is something to his point. Yeah. That,
I,
and often sometimes when we have a creative outlet and we try to push it into a money making outlet, we get burnt out really fast.
right. The myth of do the thing you love and you'll never work a day in your life is actual. Well, that's I think kind of a lie. You
That's some
know, I mean,
bullshit. That's some
like,
bullshit boomers try to tell us.
well, it's not just it's just not necessarily true. And like, I mean, ask ask all the writers who are on strike right now how that
Mm-hmm.
works out for you.
Yeah.
So I think, but I do think there's something to be said about why you're doing it, and and also why Simone thinks it's so foreign to her and to Daisy, because that's not the people that they are.
Right. Because I think for them and their gift in particular, they want to share it so that people will feel a connection to the
Yeah.
music, or a connection, like, because when we connect with songs when we feel like it's telling a little bit about us as individuals. The songwriters connected with me through their lyrics because I feel a connection with those lyrics because it's similar to who I am as a person. It's similar to who I am as a life, in my life. And so I do think that a lot of times singers, artists like that, musicians like that, do want to share their gifts, so that people can feel a connection to somebody, or can feel heard, can
Well,
feel acknowledged.
isn't that the whole point of Daisy? Isn't Daisy about wanting to be seen as something? That's why she changed her name to Daisy. That's like so much of this goes back to her issues with her mom,
Hmm.
you know. So he says he writes for the waves. So then we cut to Daisy sitting at a table with a bunch of his friends,
I'm
and
just
of
like
course in
laughing.
my notes she's got her foot barefoot on the table. Why?
Gross.
Gross. Um, but his friend is telling her, and she's got like a European accent, that like he used to be so unhappy, after his parents died in a car crash, but now with you, I think he's finally living again. And this is all news to her. She didn't know anything about this.
He didn't know she was a musician. She didn't
Yeah.
know his parents died.
So, and
So,
then,
how genuine is this relationship when we have these
yes,
two major pieces of your life
can
and
you
this partner that
imagine?
you're ready to make a lifetime commitment to doesn't know this about you?
So then we're at the same party, and there's Bernie is standing with Simone, and she says, I never knew the sky could look like this. It feels like we're on another planet. And Simone says, nobody knows us, but we are going to have to go home. And then Bernice tells her that she loves her, and then she tells Simone she doesn't have to say anything back. And I also just go back to like, is Bernie not the best girlfriend ever? I mean, because I probably would be like, girl, we need to get the fuck out of here.
But I mean, just think about I'm always amazed at the bravery it takes people to be the first one to say it.
Yeah,
Because if you think about that, that is a really, really brave thing to do. Because if you've ever said that and had somebody tell you,
thank you.
it's, or, we really can't say those kinds of things yet
Yeah,
because, but
no,
yeah, it's just,
so
it's a very
sweet.
brave person that's going to be the first one to say, I love you in a
Yeah,
relationship. So kudos to Bernie once again.
Bernie's the best.
Bernie is the best. So, um, so we cut to them kind of walking home from the party,
Yeah, Daisy and
and
Nikki.
Daisy asks Nikki about his parents and why didn't you tell me your parents had passed? And he said, I'm here, I'm with you, and that's all that matters. So he doesn't want to talk about it. I was sad for a long time afterwards, and then I decided sadness was a choice.
Yeah,
So what do you do when you get sad? Daisy asks him. What, do you just look away? And he comes back and he says, I look at the good things in life. I look at you and the rest just disappears. And that to me is a very privileged response
oh yeah,
to be able to, just say, I decided sadness was a choice. That sounds like a really nauseating self-help guru kind of response. I'm sorry. It's
yeah.
just, yeah.
No, the idea. I mean, I do think that. I mean, I think that there. I think what's interesting about this whole sequence is the red flags in this episode with Nikki and his friends are not glaring red flags. These are all things that kind of can be don't can be make sense. Like just the conversation about art.
Mm-hmm.
And then him talking like when he says pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, like things like that. There are certain truths about choices you can make about how you look at your life and what you want to do that are kind of on that route.
Yeah. Well, and just
But
I keep thinking, I mean, if you're in that and you are so just like tunnel vision and in love,
mhm,
we've all been there where we have
yeah,
missed all the red flags.
exactly.
And we know that Daisy is really not that old. She's probably what, timeline wise, mid 20s at this point.
Yeah,
So she's really not that well, life lived kind of thing in relationships. And so when you're in the middle of that and you are so love drunk, you often miss those red flags that other people can better see from the outside. But I like the line that he did say that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. But again, just like choosing to just say, I'm not going to be sad anymore. I guess that's really easy to say when
well,
you've,
I mean, let's face it, we know what they're actually doing.
right. Yeah, we know what he's doing. So she starts to talk to him about Billy. And they're back at their place. I want to say it's like they're on the bed or
Yeah,
something.
it's a really nice scene.
Yeah.
Like they're talking, you can tell they've been opening up. Like they had this moment with with them, and they're opening up, and she tells him
So she's
you
telling him
know,
about, yeah, she's telling him about Billy, and she says something line about, thinking that he was, the one. There was this really deep connection. And Nikki does say, it's easy to confuse a soulmate with a mirror.
yes.
And we know as we progress, and I'm thinking of the very end of the series and these lines that they're saying over kind of some B-roll. And they've already kind of had some discussions of, they are very much alike
Yeah.
in the best of things and in the worst of things, that they are very much alike. But I do think that that was a really authentic and mature viewpoint to say that, yeah, sometimes it's easy to confuse a soulmate with a mirror.
Yeah.
And I think she took that in and really processed it. And he asked if the connection between her and Billy was gone. And she doesn't answer him.
No.
She just kisses him. But when she kisses him, her face moves off to the side, and you see a shot of her. And I think, Nikki's like nuzzled into her ear or something. And the look on her face
Hmm.
is one that she knows that this connection is not gone. She has just removed herself from the situation, so she has not had to face this on a daily basis,
Yeah.
but she has not gotten through closure on this.
Oh
So,
gosh, no.
you know, she's not over it. And she's thinking that Nikki is going to help her get over it, but she's not really over it.
So then, um, you know, we cut to it's outside on the island, and they're looking over, and Daisy and Simone are they, and I think this is probably one of the first like real conversations they've really had by themselves. They haven't had a whole lot, and she's talking to um, Simone's talking about Bernie and how she's good, how she cares about her and stuff. But she says, "I don't want to play small clubs forever. I want what you got." And um, and Daisy says, "Well, why can't you have both?" Well, we know Simone lives in the reality, and as much as we would love for her to be open about Bernie, she knows that if she really wants to make it as a pop star, that's not going to work. And it's also just a really not it's really not thoughtful for Daisy to say that because she knows that too. She should have enough sense to know why she can't have both.
Right.
And the better as a friend would be to say, "Well, I'm sorry you feel like that. Are you sure?" Not just be like, "Well, why can't you have both? I've got both." Well, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And then it hurts Simone, and Simone says, "Well, last time we spoke, you were in the middle of getting your heart broke. It was a month ago." And Daisy goes, "Well, Billy made me miserable, and Nikki makes me happy, and I just want to be happy for once. I want to be the one. For once, I want to be the one who gets to be happy."
And again, if she were sober, these this ending lines from her about Billy making her miserable, Nikki making her happy, and I want my happiness finally. I want to be the one that gets to be happy. If she were sober, I would have embraced this a lot more. But
Well,
again, like you said, they're not really showing her using a whole lot. We see a couple of scenes where she's like, I think we saw a scene where she's like walking through the house and she pops a pill.
mhm.
We see them drinking a lot. Um, but I think, again, we have removed ourselves. It's really easy to be this way when you are not faced with those obstacles or those triggers. It's really easy to be all zen and be all together and having these wonderful vantage points in life. But if you have not gone through the trenches and gotten yourself through that, you're just avoiding. It's just
Well,
avoidance.
and it's just been a month. You're over Billy,
And now
and
you're
you're
in
in love
love.
with this other guy, and it's been a month.
But
So,
people like that, fall in
I,
love real quick.
look, we've all made we've all made poor decisions at one time on the rebound, but yeah,
So we cut to the wedding, and it was a very beautiful wedding. Um, I loved the whole, veil being pulled over them and them being under this veil together. And she genuinely looked, like she was true. They both looked like they were madly in love with each other.
hmm
And it looked super, I mean, it was beautiful and it looked super authentic as far as the, the love for each other. And they cut to 1997, Daisy, and this line just it got me. She says, "I've done a lot of dumb things, really dumb things that I'll regret until the day I die, but I do not regret that day."
yeah,
I think she really, really tried to go into it being authentic. Um, I think she wanted it to be real and
yeah.
wanted it to be, you know, solid and good and healthy. I think she went into it with all the best intentions, but she also went into it trying to escape her reality.
I think she wants someone to love her the way Camila and Billy love each other. Like she wants that,
Hmm.
you know?
She wants somebody to just love her, just love her, because
Yeah.
she didn't have that from her parents. She thought she was going to have that from Billy. She had those relationships where men stole her music or men stole her lines and tried to make her the muse. And finally she like looked at this relationship with Nikki as being real and authentic. And finally, it was a love that he had for her.
And I would say the only real love that she's really had that has been reciprocated is Simone.
Hmm. Yep. So they're having the reception. It's very beautiful. Everyone's dancing. Daisy and Nikki are dancing and looking very much like they're kind of in their own world, which is, typical what you would expect at a wedding. And Simone finally, there's an exchange and a conversation about how, Simone feels like they can be authentic in themselves because nobody knows them there. So she pulls her out onto the dance floor. And before that, you see kind of Simone standing off to the side and she's kind of watching Daisy and Nikki. And there's this look in her eyes that I think is like, I really want that. And I think that's when it kind of clicks that they could have that while they're here,
hmm
while nobody knows them. Wishing that, she could live out loud with Bernie. And so she takes this opportunity and she pulls her out on the dance floor and they start dancing. and she finally, in the midst of this, nobody knows us, and I can be with Bernie out in the open, and she finally, I guess, has the nerve to finally admit to Bernie that she really does love her. And Bernie's response, "Well, no shit."
Love her. Love
Love her.
Bernie so much.
Bernie's great.
So then later that night, Nikki is kind of off to himself, doing his own thing, and Simone sees him, and Nikki goes, "Oh, you think this is crazy?" And Simone says, "No, it's sudden. Crazy is staying here and her not going on tour with the band that took her to number one." And Nikki's like, "Well, nobody tells Daisy what to do." And Simone says, "Well, you're her husband. You could talk some sense into her." And Nikki says, "Well, she says she's happy. Don't you want her to be happy?" And then Daisy walks up and they make a big point of like, let's get high. And they take acid. And Nikki gives Simone this look. Like, look, she's mine now.
Right.
You just, and you see him encourage her. Yeah, let's take some acid.
And then they're going to go swim out in the middle of the ocean when it's
Yeah,
pitch black outside,
yeah,
and they're tripping on acid. And Simone's
yeah,
like, I don't know if that's a good idea.
yeah.
Yeah, we're going to go. And then Nikki's having this conversation with Daisy the next day. Oh my God, this pisses me off so bad. And he says, well, Simone doesn't approve of me. And she's like, oh no, that's not it. And he said, no, she doesn't approve of me, and she wants you all to herself.
Yeah. He's like,
She's in
isn't
love
it
with you.
obvious?
Isn't it obvious? She's in love with you. And I'm like, jerk.
Well, and that's, I mean, that's a number one in the playbook of abusive relationships is to isolate people from their loved ones. So that's the first little thing he's decided to do.
And he's not isolating her in what we would think of as like physically pulling her away.
No.
He is creating this wedge.
Yes.
And that to me is just, oh, that's so scummy. I'm just like, oh, okay, this is how we're going to play. Okay. So, all right, if that's what you want to do, dude, then let's go. But we get to Simone packing up and she's getting ready to leave and she walks out of the house and Daisy's like, well, how about you stay one more week? And someone's like, I got shows booked. I've got responsibilities. I've got bills. And
this scene where Nikki's in the same room and he kind of clears his throat, and I feel like that clearing
they're
of his
up on that
throat
patio area.
Yeah, and he kind of goes, and it's kind of that "see, I told you" kind of
yeah.
clear throat. To me.
It's an audible, like, okay,
Yeah.
Daisy. She's saying all the things I told you.
Yeah,
I told
exactly.
you. It's that kind of audible yank at the leash for Daisy.
Yeah, like, oh, just here it is. See what I was talking about?
I told you so. This is all that she's trying to do. And so he says he's going to excuse himself to go get tea. And she's like, yeah, I've got bills to pay. I've got responsibilities. And Nikki leaves and Daisy says, you used to be fun. I don't know what happened to you. And Simone, well, some of us have to work, Daisy. Some of us have to work our damn asses off to even get half of what you got. And imagine that as Simone, as somebody who had already been on the music scene, and then Daisy shows up. And so you've been putting in this time, and Daisy falls into it.
Yes. And we didn't.
And now we're just pissing it away.
And we didn't even really talk about it before, but I don't know if I'm Simone. Look, I try to be happy for my friends whenever good things happen for them. I do. But there's still sometimes a part of me, because I'm shallow and
you're human,
flawed, who goes, well, why couldn't that happen for me? And you look at Simone, she gets a call from Teddy. It's not a call from Teddy to be like, hey, Simone, I want us to do a record together. It's like, oh, hey, remember
Where's
the
Daisy?
girl that you introduced to me? Where's she at?
Yeah. I'm not really here to talk about you and what's going on in your life.
And Simone let that go. Simone's a good person and was like, no, I don't know where she is. And when my friend's in trouble, I go look for her.
But I mean, we've all been in those types of situations where you can sit there and look at somebody and say, look at all that you have been given or all that you got, and you were just pissing it away, and I'm out here busting my hump.
Yes.
To try to get just a little bit of that, and I can't catch a break. And you got a break, and you just pissed it away.
Yeah.
And now you want to come over here and play house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a very emotional scene to watch. I'm just a louder, more animated person, so I probably would not have been quite as civil and quiet about it. As I said, Simone says, some of us had to work our asses off to even get half of what you've gotten. And Daisy's like, I don't know what's going on with you. And Simone reminds her of the girl. She said, remember that girl, the girl that walked around with her notebook, her diary, and that girl that really wanted to be heard? And Daisy was like, I did that and I was fucking miserable. And we see they cut away real quick and Nikki is downstairs, window open, and is hearing all of this. And so she says, I did that and I was fucking miserable. And someone says to her, you're not going back because you're afraid of Billy. Calls her out because, again, we have escaped our reality. That's why she's not going back. And And then, you're not going back. And I know, hurt people. So Simone jabbed that thing in of, you're not going back because you're afraid of Billy. And Daisy just turned it around and jabbed it back in and said, are you in love with me? Are you in love with me? Because, of course, Nikki put that in her brain,
Hmm.
planted that one
She
in.
would have never thought that.
No,
Never, 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 never.
no. But are you in love with me? And the absolute look, I don't know what the hurt, the horror.
Hmm.
I don't know how to
Betrayal.
describe it, but Simone was just absolutely broken
Hmm.
by that. And so we cut to Bernie and Simone are getting ready to get on their tender boat to go somewhere. And Daisy's running down and she says, oh, and I loved this. And she says, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Daisy says, I'm sorry. And Simone comes back and she says, and there's this single tear coming down Simone's face.
Hmm.
And she says, I do love you, Daisy. And I'll tell you what love is because you clearly have no fucking clue. It's when somebody tells you the truth, even when you don't want to hear it.
Yep.
And
Then let's finish out the line.
then the line goes, and I love you so much, so I'll tell you the truth. You're a real selfish bitch.
Yep.
And that was a great, that was,
Well, and I think that this whole sequence from her calling her and saying I need you to this moment is so typical of addicts, because I think the biggest thing about an addict is they are selfish and they put their addiction and their need above everything else in their life. Their friends, their family, their body, everything else. And for and as much as I do believe Daisy loves Simone or other people, she loves her addiction more, and I
she
think
is just
that
a super selfish individual because she sent this fucking telegram.
yes,
I need you, Daisy.
yes,
That's it. And she got the reaction that she wanted because any reasonable person is going to
yes,
think that there's a problem. Simone races to her side, only to find out, oh, I'm just getting married and I want you to be here. And then to just be slapped with this, you're just in love with me. You're jealous of me. You're jealous of my
yes,
happiness, kind of thing. And then, and again, that line is so, so true. Loving somebody is telling them the truth, even when they don't want to hear it and you don't want to have to say it.
yeah.
So, yes,
But and
Daisy is,
also, I would say so much of their relationship has been about Simone being there for her, and never, like, wouldn't it have been nice for her to have said, I feel so lucky that you introduced me to Teddy. I wouldn't have any of this if you hadn't done that for me. Where's any of that? You know, and I mean, I'm bitter for Simone, and um, no, it's so good, and but it's also so important for Daisy to go through this, because if Simone is still there for her and helping her, then we're never going to get to the Daisy that we really need. But
yeah,
nothing sadder than a friend breakup. I feel like friend breakups are almost as sad as, or more sad than romantic breakups,
I
because
would,
friends are supposed to last.
right. Yeah. And this was truly a break. And
Yeah.
this was not a breakup that probably either one of them had experienced in their life. So
No.
there's a lot of emotions in there that they don't know how to handle or deal
Process.
with. Yeah.
So then we cut to Nikki is reading the Rolling Stone article, and because he's found it, and he says, I didn't realize you were this famous. And, he says, I heard what you said outside, this need to connect. Is it true? And maybe she's right. Maybe you should go back. And Daisy says, I want to go back, but I can't get hurt again. And Nikki says, it won't be the same this time. I won't let anyone hurt you ever again. And
So did he really want her to go back because of this desire to connect? Or did he have some realization when he opened up Rolling Stones and saw that and was like, holy shit, she's actually very popular. And
I
I could
don't
get
know.
and I could be hitched onto that.
Well, and I would say that the book, I don't know, when we watch next week's episode and then reflect upon how it is portrayed in the book, I need to look at it again because I don't know. In this moment, I think in this moment, let's just say, like, if I'm looking to and I don't really know what happens in the future, like, just, I think he is maybe like, well, you're the biggest rock star in the world. Like, don't you worked really hard for this. And supposedly, I love you. Shouldn't I support you in this?
Hmm.
Now, as we move forward, do I have doubts about that? Yeah. But in this moment, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't. If I'm him, why would I want anything to change? I've got this woman the way I want her right here, and we're living this life.
So the dramatic me thinks, is he really as rich as he says he is? He says he's from this family of
Well, and I don't know.
aristocracy. So is he really got all that trust fund money, or is he broke and he's seeing a place to hitch his wagon onto and a money train, and he can be a kept man because Daisy is so successful and she's going to be this huge rock star?
Oh, I think there's probably that. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of White Lotus season 2 where they're just trying to find some rich lady to, get. I mean, very few aristocrats are still rich, in
Right.
England now. I would just say I'm still trying to figure out how an Irish person is still a lord because, a, aren't all the Irish lords, weren't they taken over by the Brits? Like, doesn't like isn't I don't like the whole Irish aristocracy thing didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I just let it pass because
Sometimes we have to suspend reality when we
because
watch
I mean
TV.
I'm thinking he wouldn't be Irish. I'm thinking he would be technically British because the British overtook Ireland and have a history. There's a big history there of the hatred of them. Um, so
Don't
that
worry
I
about
don't
history.
know.
Don't worry about history. We're just
I
watching
don't know
TV.
how that worked, and I'm sure Scott Newstat probably can give me some explain to me what that all of is. He's like, well, technically he's, because there's like people who are British who live in Ireland and consider themselves Irish even though they're British, things like that.
Yeah.
So, but I found that confusing. But um, and he says though, you see how scared she is. And we know that she's running. She ran away. This is all about running away. And she goes, I don't want to get hurt again. And he's like, well, you won't be hurt because I'm not going to let anybody hurt you. And you probably do think, well, look, I got a new boyfriend. I'm going to walk in there and nobody, and so Billy can fuck off because I got this hot Irish boyfriend. Husband. Husband.
Yeah.
So she's, it's not going to be like that. So the next shot we see is they're on the highway in LA and you hear Regret Me on the radio. And Nikki, of course it's Regret Me, of course it has to be that. And then Nikki
Hmm.
says, "Is that you?" And she's like, "I guess we're about to find out."
And at the point of the song that they're listening to, because he takes a couple of seconds before he recognizes that it's her, it's the line of, I'm a slippage in the system and I'm perfectly ready to strike. Go ahead and regret me, but I'm not easing up on this mic. And
Yep.
she's like, I guess we're going to find out.
Yep.
And see.
And scene. And so I wrote a little note here that the title of this is She's Gone. And at first you think it's about Daisy, but I think it's actually about Simone in some ways.
Valid point. Yeah.
And it's about both of them, but I think, not having Simone in her life is a big step in the wrong direction for Daisy.
Hmm. And now I'm going to have to
So,
go back and listen to the lyrics on the Hollow Note song because, one, I love that song a lot.
yeah.
And then I'm going to
It's
have to listen to the lyrics to connect it back. But yeah, I do think that's a very good point. That at first we thought it was the escape of Daisy, but we've had this friendship breakup, and so now
yeah.
Daisy's gonna have to deal with the aftermath of not having Simone in her life.
Yeah. I mean, and really she doesn't have anybody. The last time she needed somebody, she had to call Karen.
Yeah.
Like, Simone, all of these other people have people in their life, and she doesn't. So, I
Nope.
mean, it's an interesting episode. I'm glad that, like, this would have been a tough one if they had just, like, this had been the only episode they released. I mean, it's good that they released it. I think they released it with episode 8.
Hmm.
And,
And
and that's good.
these next few episodes,
Are intense.
they are intense. And then I've watched them again, and they're still as intense.
So, but
There we are.
I survived this, got through it with COVID.
Kudos to
and
you, man.
and
Kudos to you.
so I want to thank everybody who listens. If all the people
It's
out there, all of our fans,
all of our fans.
for being patient as we missed a week because I went to Nashville and got COVID.
But you had fun.
Yeah, I did. And so we will be back on schedule next week, and we'll finish this out, I think.
Pretty soon.
We'll see what happens.
See what happens. All
And,
right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram at Nobody's Muses. Feel free to email us, nobodysmuses@gmail.com. Like and subscribe on YouTube. You can find our podcast anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.